Thank you very much. I wanted to just follow up what Jason had said just in terms of the investment, and then I will bring us down to earth. But in a very significant report that was done by David Schaefer and David Wright called A New Paradigm for Economic Development, it's just an incredibly informative report with a lot of very useful data. But one of the things that I found most striking were statistics on where New York State ranks in terms of per capita state and local spending on higher education. I was astounded to see that we ranked 42nd out of 50 states. We averaged the spending of $566 per capita versus an average of $678 statewide. It's quite incredible. I teach graduate and undergraduate courses in urban studies and planning. And I ask students to think about what are the qualities of good places, places that are good places to live and work. And David has sort of taken the thunder because, in fact, if you ask people and you start to think about the qualities, you find that it turns out those qualities tend to be associated with places that have universities and colleges. In fact, I often make students aware of a book called A Good Place to Live by Terry Pindell, where he visits and describes and interviews people in university and college towns, and like Charlottesville, Virginia, Missoula, Montana, Madison, Wisconsin, Columbus, Ohio, Minneapolis. Because it just turns out that having a university creates the kind of energy and engagement that makes it an exciting, stimulating place to live. During the 1990s, much of the 1990s I spent teaching at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And I came to be exposed to the idea called the Wisconsin idea. The idea that the boundaries of the universities are the boundaries of the state. That a major purpose of the university is to reach out to the communities, to apply knowledge, to share information, to be engaged in communities. The emphasis on community outreach is what has created an incredible University of Wisconsin extension program. And I was an extension specialist, traveling all across the state to communities, meeting with citizens and elected officials, talking about approaches and tools that they could use to try to manage land use and development in their communities. And these educational efforts actually led to the passage in 1998 of statewide legislation on land use and growth management, requiring the preparation of land use plans and the establishment of growth boundaries. So the idea that, in fact, the university its purpose is to engage with communities and make them better places. I found a parallel concept in Portland, at the Portland State University. Their motto is, "Let knowledge serve the city." Unfortunately, I think New York State's university system has not always been explicitly committed to serving and advancing and strengthening the livability of upstate New York cities. Having grown up in Buffalo and come to age in the 1960s, I'm all too familiar with the line of thinking that led to the decision to locate the main campus of the largest branch of the state university well north of the city in suburban Amherst, and fueling the suburban sprawl that was already taking place. It was a fateful decision. How different Buffalo would be as a city had the campus located downtown on all the abandoned, vacant industrial properties. It's now being corrected. Actually, Buffalo, SUNY Buffalo, is engaged in a very exciting program and recommitment to the city developing a downtown campus for its medical complex and research. So they recognize the importance. But in fact, the vast majority of our campuses were located outside of our urban centers, outside Oneonta, outside Binghamton. Binghamton has begun to address that by developing a new downtown center for public affairs that is a very exciting and wonderful, significant addition to the city. Having colleges and universities in the SUNY system These colleges and universities are sources of pride and strength to upstate communities. They're rooted in place, as businesses have found that they can move and flit around and abandon the places where they began. Our colleges and universities are rooted in place, so we are committed to the communities where we exist. Equally, if not more important, I think, the broad-based liberal arts education that colleges and universities provide the basis for preparing people for citizenship, to be active, engaged citizens, intelligent voters, providing the foundation for maintaining a democratic society. It's the kind of thing that makes a healthy society. The ability to think for oneself, to analyze conflicting data, to grapple with complexity, to reach independent judgments, not just to absorb what you've been given, but to think analytically. That's what I think a good SUNY education does. In numerous ways, programs in our university system contribute to enhancing the quality of life in the communities in which they are located. And the program that I'm associated with, the Urban Studies and Planning, is an excellent, I think, example. Students, through their faculty, become aware of issues and problems and become engaged in addressing those. We enter into partnerships with community groups, neighborhood associations, nonprofit organizations, with the city's Department of Economic Development and Planning to solve community problems. Just a few examples. Each year we conduct a graduate planning studio. These are students, graduate students who have had previous training and now in their second year they work collaboratively with the client community to address a problem that community has addressed and wants to solve. We have had a partnership and worked in the Arbor Hill neighborhood and Sheridan Hollow for the last 3 years. We helped a nonprofit group in the town of Colony develop a public access plan for an 11-mile stretch of the Mohawk River Valley. Our students help in other ways. Our students volunteered at the public meetings that are involved in preparing a comprehensive plan for Albany. Albany has never had a comprehensive plan to make sense of our individual decisions. And our students went to these series of public meetings as facilitators, as note takers during 2010. I worked with David Lewis and using our graduate students to develop a scenic byways handbook for communities in terms of designating scenic byways and preserving historic resources along important corridors, which is in fact tourism being an important source of economic development. Individual students do projects that help communities. I just reviewed an extraordinary report that was done by one of our students, Kevin Boucher, for the Pine Hills neighborhood, focusing on the Upper Madison area, and many ideas coming there. Our students worked with an enhancement study in the education district at the center of the city with neighborhood groups and with CDTC to identify ways of stabilizing and improving that community. And 2 students developed a brochure to distribute to students living in the downtown, that core area, which we refer lovingly to as the student ghetto, a brochure in terms of how to stay safe, how to maintain security and protect their property and avoid exposing themselves to risks. So we in our program work very hard. It is the kind of thing that you look and you see that having a university, a liberal arts program with specialized programs, journalism, communication, education, urban studies, and planning, all of these things contribute to an engaged citizenry, and I think contribute immeasurably. Although we don't notice these little bits as they add up, but they immeasurably to the quality of life.